Hi, my name is Kira, and I'm here today at the Tech Museum in San Jose, California, and I'm happy to have this opportunity to interview Kristin Hilf, who's the Vice President of the Community Relations of Raytheon Company. Hi.
Hi.
Good. So for my first question, I'd like to ask you, what exactly do you do with your company? Like, about what's an average day of work like?
Oh boy. Well, I have a really fun job because I get to give money away, and I run a program that encourages middle school kids to stay interested in math and science, which is tough. So when I first got the job, they told me my job was to make math cool. And I went home. I have a son who's in 7th grade, and I went home and I said, they told me my job is to make math cool, and he looked horrified. Oh, you can't make math cool. And I said, no, my job isn't really to make math cool. My job is to make math relevant to middle school kids so that they stay interested in math and science as they go through their junior year or junior high school and then high school education, and then maybe actually go off and study engineering in college. Because that's ultimately what I want to do, is to try to get kids to study engineering and then come to work for Raytheon, because we're always looking for engineers. So my average day, I spend a lot of time going through requests for money. So part of my job is to give money to charitable organizations. We focus most of our giving on math and science education, and then some of our money is given to armed services support, so support for soldiers and their families. And then a little bit of our money is given to things like Walks for Hunger or Battered Women's Shelter, but that's not the bulk of our money. The bulk of our money goes to math and science education. So I spend time looking at those requests and determining who's going to get some of our funds. And the bulk of my job is spent on our Math Moves You program, which is an interactive website that shows middle school kids that math can be fun and is relevant to their lives today, and that's an interactive world. So I basically run an interactive gaming work site that's focused on math for middle school children.
So how do you say this has affected your family? Like, your son has changed anything?
I wish I could say yes. It's because my 7th grade son is actually pretty good in math. He'll go on the website somewhat, but it's not going to replace him playing with his Xbox 360, and I'm never going to compete with the gaming sites. So it's sort of in addition to. So is he going to play he's going to go on Math Moves You over his Xbox 360? No way. There's no way. But if he's studying for a test or has a quiz coming up, or he's having trouble with a certain math concept, he does go on the site and check it out. And it's a great way for him to practice, because there's flashcards and little quizzes you can take. But they're also fun. They're not just like looking at a boring math worksheet. It's, they're in virtual worlds. So, it's changed a little bit. The more interesting thing is I have a younger son who is in 2nd grade, and he's really into it. So hopefully I can get him to stay interested as he moves through school years.
So what are the biggest highlights of, like, the goals you complete? Mm-hmm. Like, what's the most exciting part of what you're doing?
I think the most exciting part of what I'm doing is showing kids that math can lead to really fun and interesting careers. Now, I know most middle school kids aren't really thinking yet about their careers, but when we show them, we do a lot of live events, sort of like what we're doing here today at the Tech Museum, and sometimes we bring in NASA astronauts. We've brought in storm chasers, so people who live in the Midwest and go after tornadoes or fly up into tornadoes and hurricanes and check them out. We've brought video game developers in to schools, polar explorers, and just all sorts of different, and actually and professional athletes as well, actually. And we bring these people in, and they talk about how math is a part of their career and a part of their everyday. And to see the kids say, oh, okay, I get it. That's the most rewarding part of my career. The other part of what I do that's a lot of fun is we actually give college scholarships to middle school kids. So to be able to say to a 6th grader, a 6th grader, or an 8th grader, hey, here's $1,500 that we're going to save for you to start you on your college career. The letters I get these great letters from kids from all across the country thanking us and thanking Raytheon for starting their college savings plan for them. So that's a lot of fun too. Now, the biggest reward is, 10 years from now, when kids are, people your age are graduating from college and they come work for us, and maybe they had something to do with my program. That would be the biggest reward. So we'll see if that happens.
So are you planning to take your program maybe a little further to create like other parts, like, I don't know, maybe a camp or something for kids?
Actually, it's funny you should mention that. Besides the scholarship program, we're now looking at providing, because it's hard to say to a middle school kid, okay, in 6 or 7 years, we're going to give you money. Everyone wants the immediate gratification. So we're redefining our scholarship program, and we're probably going to be giving out grants and scholarships for kids to go to sort of math and science-based camps across the nation. So of course the most obvious one that people know about is the space camp in Huntsville, Alabama. But all across the country there's marine biology camps, there's all sorts of, I just did the research on this recently, there's all sorts of camps that have math or science at the base. So we're going to be giving out scholarships for kids to go to those camps to hopefully keep them interested. So whether it be video game designing camp or computer software programming camp or space camp or marine biology camp, we're probably not this year, too late, but next year we'll be offering up scholarships for kids all around the country to apply to go to camp at our, and we'll pay for it. So, and then the other thing we're trying to do is try to find a connection to high school. So finding things, well, now that if we got kids interested in math and science in middle school, how do we keep them interested in high school? We're a major sponsor of an organization called Math Counts, which you may have heard of, and that's where it's actually a math competition program that's held in middle school across the country. They just had their national competition in Denver this past weekend. And these are kids who, they compete on math questions. They first do it at a regional level, then at a state level, and then at a national level. And there were something like 250 middle school kids in Denver from every single state in the nation competing this past weekend to become the math champion of 2008 for the nation. So we're a major sponsor of that as well. And we're going to be holding, we're going to be sponsoring the national event in the next 3 years. So we have our hands in things, yeah.
So for my last question, what events kind of led you to pick this career path?
Well, I actually have a background in journalism and communication, and part of what I do while in, I actually worked here in California for many years before going back east to where my family is, and I always had an interest, especially once my kids were in school, in education. While we're giving back to the community, the benefit to Raytheon is to make sure that people know that we're giving back, and it's part of communicating the overall goodness of the company. So while I do community outreach and we give money away and we try to help kids, the other part of my job is to making sure everyone knows about it. So I get involved in advertising, in media relations, and speaking, and trade shows to make sure that the word is getting out that Raytheon is giving back to the community. So I took my communications background and applied it in a new way. It's actually a new job for me just in the last year, so it just sort of evolved that way.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.